Right now we're going to be talking about intrusive thoughts, their connection to OCD, anxiety, and more. So what are intrusive thoughts? Essentially, these are thoughts or images or visualizations, things in your mind space that are typically unwanted, uninvited. They happen, outside of your control, and they're usually unpleasant in some kind of way. Now, sometimes these intrusive thoughts can become an obsession, as in we cannot stop thinking about it. We ruminate over it, and it drives us, kind of bonkers, and it really gets in the way of functioning in our regular everyday lives. So these obsessive thoughts, that is where the O from OCD comes from, and we're going to be talking more about intrusive thoughts, obsessive compulsive disorder, and also some other places that we might see intrusive thoughts as well. Now, the majority of U.S. adults have reported experiencing some kind of intrusive thought at least one time in their life or another. A much smaller percentage of people cannot get rid of these thoughts at all. They try to dismiss them, but they just stick around. And like I said, they kind of become obsessions, or they can become obsessions. And for another subset of people, they now start compulsively doing things to try to forget about this obsession, not think about the obsession, or kind of release the crazy energy that's coming from this obsessive thought, which started as an intrusive thought. So as you can imagine, I'm talking about obsessive compulsive disorder specifically. So the obsession, which comes from this intrusive thought, may be something that's based in reality, or it might even be something that's really not very logical. However, individuals that are suffering from obsessive compulsive disorder have a really hard time staying based in rational logic. So an example that we could think of is someone may have this intrusive or obsessive thought that someone that they care about is going to die. So they might have this thought every day, and there's a whole lot of reasons why the compulsive behavior may exist, but you may have seen this kind of sensationalized in media, but this does happen to people where they might have this obsessive thought that somebody they care about is going to die, and in order to prevent this person from dying, they have to make sure to touch every surface of their home 15 times. This notion that I've done it before and that person didn't die, it kind of solidifies or validates this belief that they have that what they're doing with this compulsive behavior is really stopping the obsessive thought. So you might notice someone that is obsessively touching something. That's the compulsive behavior to make sure that their obsessive thought doesn't come true. And so that's a kind of high-level explanation of what goes on for some people experiencing OCD. Of course, it doesn't capture every situation, and it's not applicable to every kind of person that's experiencing this, but that's one way to look at it. The occasional intrusive thought is pretty normal. Everybody experiences this stuff, especially when they're going through some kind of stressful time in life. Maybe there's a big project they have to finish at work, or, student government elections are coming up at school, and you have to prepare all these things to get ready. So stressors in life, my family reunion is coming up, and there's so many logistics we have to plan through and get through. All these different and normal life experiences can cause us to have intrusive thoughts here and there. However, for some individuals where they don't just go away, and in fact, they really get in the way of some kind of function in a big area of your life. So whether that's occupational, so your professional life, or your personal life and your social relationships and your romantic relationships and your family relationships, if these thoughts are getting in the way of functioning as like what you feel is normal, then that's maybe an indication that you're now struggling with a mental health concern. This could be, like I said, OCD. It might be an indication of another anxiety disorder or depression. We also see intrusive thoughts for individuals that may meet criteria for ADHD, for PTSD. So that's post-traumatic stress disorder, and that's where we see a lot of intrusive thoughts, flashbacks about the past. This hypervigilance that we see in individuals suffering from PTSD a lot of times comes from the intrusive thoughts that they are not safe, that something bad is going to happen. So as you can see, even though intrusive thoughts here and there are pretty normal, they can quickly spiral into something that's a little bit more out of control. Another interesting thought point I think a lot of individuals that experience OCD, for instance, their brain is already very well trained to obsess over some kind of thought or notion or feeling. And so they're already struggling with a very specific set of triggers that may get them to start doing some kind of compulsive behavior. And on top of that, they may also start obsessing over this notion that something must be wrong with them because they can't get over this thing. And so people experiencing intrusive thoughts as part of OCD or another mental health disorder, they may now also experience shame and guilt on top of the other symptoms because they feel like there's something wrong with them. I spent all this time talking about intrusive thoughts and how awful they can be. How do we get rid of them? How do we manage them? And how do we live a more calming and regular life? If I knew the magical answer in one sentence, then I think a lot of these videos wouldn't exist, right? So that is me telling you that there is no magical answer to make intrusive thoughts go away. However, there are things that we can do to manage them. Of course, there's a lot of therapeutic interventions that are known to be effective to help people manage these symptoms. So specific therapy models to be looking for if you are in the shop for a therapist are people that practice and have experience in cognitive behavioral therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, and exposure and response prevention. These are all great techniques and strategies, or they can give you techniques and strategies to better manage some of the feelings and the symptoms that may come as a result of your intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts are also very much part of anxiety, which is a human condition. And if you've never been in therapy before and you think still that somehow there's some kind of magical cure out there to make anxiety go away, I'm going to let you know right now that is false. Nobody can make anxiety go away. Therapy is more about learning how to manage the anxiety because it's going to be here. Like I said, it's part of the human condition, so we got to learn to live with it instead of trying to push it out or repress it because that can turn into a whole other bigger issue. If you liked this video, please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you'll find a lot more content on a variety of mental health topics. If you're interested in learning more about online counseling, please click the link to BetterHelp.com below.